Good morning, everyone. I'm just curious, how many were you around when we first did Coyote? Oh.
When was that?
91, 92, 93, and that. You were there. Yeah. I mention it because my husband had an NEH grant to study in Santa Fe, and that's where we met Webster Kitchell and his sermon on Coyote. And he was gracious enough at the time to tell us we were a new congregation. We didn't have a full-time minister, or even a half-time minister at that time, so we did a lot of our own services. And he was gracious enough to tell us that, I did ask, that we could use his Coyote services, his Coyote letters and ponderings. So it's been a long time. A little bit about Coyote as an enduring symbol, obviously, since it's not an East Coast kind of symbol, although I understand we're getting more coyotes in the area. One of the most constant symbols of North American Indian mythology is Coyote. He's a figure that has not only persisted, but successfully crossed cultural barriers. Coyote serves both as an animal and a myth in literature and in art. He's a dichotomous figure. He is perceived as a trickster, a helper, a teacher, a fool, a creator. In other words, he is both good and evil, and it is said that he possesses every quality of mankind. And like humans, he's sometimes a villain, sometimes a victim, sometimes a predator, sometimes a savior. Coyote is resourceful, tough, and enduring, just like mankind. The trickster is a common character in folk tales, and Coyote is the best known of the Indian trickster figures. Often depicted as licentious, greedy, and a braggart, Coyote is sometimes accompanied by an animal friend, and this companion may serve as an unwitting foil for Coyote's tricks. Coyote is also a hero figure and a creator, a demigod, not unlike the Greek gods in whom we combine divine attributes and human lust and greed. In some myths, Coyote is the one who brings fire and daylight for man and taught him how to be a hunter. Coyote is also thought to have curative powers. According to the Crow Indian mythology, the sun coyote created the earth and made the living creatures for it. In some legends, Coyote becomes one being tricked, or he becomes the scapegoat. He's frequently bested by those who exploit his greed and turn his cunning against him. However, Coyote cannot be destroyed. He has amazing powers of resurrection, and nowhere is this more clearly depicted than in the Coyote Roadrunner series. Although he is drowned, crushed, or falls from great heights, Wile E. Coyote comes back to plot another trick. Why have the stories of Coyote lasted so long? Although they are entertaining, one of the purposes of the legends is to point up a moral. Coyote serves as a model of what to do and what not to do. In many of the stories, his antisocial behavior results in misfortune. And his stories also provide a relief from the serious and tense concerns. Listeners or readers are able to take a vicarious delight in his irreverent attitude toward authority. Coyote has the power to draw us all, no matter what our ethnic background, into his magic circle. And in his own way, he serves to reinforce our human identity. So, Webster Kitchell. Today, Coyote says there are no dull people.
Coyote got a new wardrobe, too.
Not as ratty. Would you like to tell them the first woman who saw a coyote?
Oh, yeah. Cynthia Kessler.
Cynthia Kessler.
Coyote first entered the chapel down there with a full fur coat and an Aussie hat on. And Cynthia was aghast. And she said all she could think of is, doesn't she know how we feel about fur?
There was a loud banging on the door. And before I could get to it, there was Coyote, a large, hairy fellow, yellow-eyed, red-tongued, sharp-toothed smirk. Came in like the autumn storm.
What are you doing in here, Reverend?
Working. Or at least trying to work, but I'm not accomplishing much.
Of course not. Your heart was out in the mountains. Why don't you get out of this stuffy hole?
I have to work.
No, you don't. Give me a better reason than that.
One of the troubles of being in touch with a minor deity is that he can see my secret self. There is no hiding from Coyote. I have a sermon to get written.
I thought you already had a sermon you used last week in Salt Lake City.
I do, but I have to rewrite it for the home people.
You mean you don't tell the home people the same truths you tell the people in Salt Lake City?
My dear, divine, woolly friend, you think I have ego reasons for being inside on such a lovely day?
Ha! If you were a child of your passions, if you were aware of your soul's inner need, you would be out there with the lilies of the field and wing it on the sermon.
Coyote, please. I have many important things to do.
Oh, which makes you feel so important. Just look in the mirror and see how important you think you are.
Instead, I looked at him. He returned my gaze with merciless, loving equanimity. So I looked away. I'll retire soon enough, and then I'll be a nobody, and then I can walk with you in the glory of God's magnificent outdoors every day.
Oh, poor man, a nobody.
If I hadn't known him for the trickster that he was, I might have thought he was sincerely compassionate. I decided to change the subject. I was watching CNN, a debate in Congress, and I thought, what a wonderful feeling it must be to have such power and confidence. Be honest, Coyote. Wouldn't you like to be in the spotlight? Be one of the main gods? Coyote, wouldn't you like to be there to make a difference?
Everyone's dispensable.
True. But some people are interesting and exciting and important. Some people are unimaginative and dull, and could have been dispensable from the moment of their conception.
What are you saying, Reverend? I may have to wash your mouth out with biodegradable detergent.
Well, I could never say such a thing in the pulpit, but just between you and me, and in the privacy of our sanctified study, isn't it true that the majority of humans lead lives of quiet desperation? Lives full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. In fact, maybe not even full of sound and fury. Maybe just signifying nothing.
Shame, shame.
Shame, shame my elbow. You can't fool me, old trickster. I know the cynicism of the gods. You see us as entertainment, and then you discard us when you've had your fun. You just throw us away and wait for the next generation of fools you can toy with.
Now wait a damn minute. We deities are good and kind and merciful and compassionate and infinitely caring. What is this cynicism about the gods you're putting out? You should be arrested for undermining people's faith. Ha! I'm going to call 911 and report you for blasphemy.
You don't fool me, Coyote. You know your existence is dependent on human belief. Without our belief, you'd just be an unincarnated, lonely spirit blowing around the desert sands looking for Moses.
You egotist! You think even the gods depend on you for our existence? Look here, you insignificant, dull-witted human.
Oh, Coyote, we're both poor fools, gods and humans together. You're fickle and cruel and abandoning us in our need.
And you're cruel and fickle in your worship, thinking you're self-sufficient and in control of your life. You think you don't need magic anymore. You think you don't need to worship in the desert and on the mountain.
You couldn't care less about human pain and humans stumbling in the dark. You're so all-powerful and so lacking in compassion.
Reverent? What sort of reverence are you showing for the gods?
Unitarian Universalist reverence. I've got a tradition to uphold.
A tradition of knocking the gods.
Exactly. We keep you honest. If it weren't for us and a few lonely atheists, there wouldn't be anyone to call the gods to account.
You egotist.
But it's true. If it weren't for the heretics, humans would be a bunch of bovines mooing their confusion to each other. The gods would be sickeningly unchallenged on their Mount Olympus. Ah, the nobility of heresy.
This is ridiculous. Gods and humans create each other. Humans created Yahweh, and that belief created a new tribe of humans who believed in their special mission. Humans created Buddha, and so they are brought to compassion by the idea of Buddha's compassion. Humans believe in the Christ, and their belief in the Christ creates humans who serve other humans in love. You create us, we create you. You feel the awfulness of a life without transcendence, so you create transcendence.
And so, worshipful human activity is a dust devil in the vastness of the universe, a vain wind striving after itself.
Not so. That is the appearance. There is a mystery below the appearance that you and I cannot see. But we sense it when we walk in beauty or when we hear a true word spoken. It is a mystery that stirs us when we feel compassion despite our better judgment. It is a mystery that says there are no dull lives. If you could look into each life as the Holy looks into each life and sees and understands and is filled with infinite compassion, then you would know there are no dull lives. Every woman and every man is heroic in the struggle to be soulful in a universe that seems barren.
Coyote, stop it. You know I would like to believe you, but you also know that you're the trickster. I refuse to believe you.
Fair enough. I can understand you don't trust me, but remember, that simply means you don't trust yourself, for by your heretical standards, you created me trickster. You're simply saying you are trickster and can't be trusted.
So I'm left with nothing?
Oh, wrong. You have a soul that tells you what is true. Everyone has a soul, the great and the dull alike. Most of the great listen to their egos instead of their souls. The dull have more time to listen to their souls and find the lessons of an ordinary life. The dull have more motivation to listen to their souls because they are not filled with self-importance. Maybe the dull get out for a walk in the aspens before the fall is done. Maybe they have time to listen to other people. Maybe they get out to the farthest reaches of their wandering and finally decide to trust the unknown and love it. Maybe they have the wisdom to cherish the thought that the universe understands them while understanding that it might be an illusion.
So the wise soul finally accepts the unknown and prays that there is love and understanding and compassion in there somewhere.
Just so. And so does the wise minor trickster god who gives thanks for the ecstasy of irony in all things divine. After all, we gods are merely the masks the holy wears when dealing with humanity.
We're not ready to see the holy straight on?
Oh, of course not. Stories of humans burned to a crisp by the sight of a god, minds deranged, not ready for the holy. You deal only with the masks of God, such as me. Ta-da!
Let me understand. You say that the great and glamorous, the people of importance and self-importance, that they're not as close to the holy?
As my colleague Jesus of Nazareth remarked, it is harder for a rich man to get into heaven than for a camel.
Camels don't get into heaven.
Of course they get into heaven. Camels are quiet and useful, and they think a lot while walking across the desert. They have an unknown deep side. Jesus was simply asking, wouldn't you rather be in heaven with a nice camel than an egotistical rich man?
I was thinking. You're saying the dull and the useful beasts of burdens are better company than the rich and famous?
I am saying that there are no dull people. There are people too caught up in their own self-importance to see the courage and faithfulness it takes to live an ordinary life. And there are ordinary people who sadly believe there is nothing special about being ordinary. Thus their lives seem meaningless. If I could get your attention, my important reverend friend, I would like you to go out and tell them that though they may be dull and ordinary in society's eyes, they are in fact wondrous gems of courage, love, and faith. Will you please tell them that for me?
Is this your opinion, or do you have it on a higher authority?
Oh, I have it on the highest authority. On yours.
On mine? What do you mean, on my authority? I don't know anything. This is a major God matter.
You dug this hole for yourself. As you say, the holy is silent. So it is up to you as a human being who has lived more than a few years and experienced more than a few experiences, some of them better not mentioned, to dip into your experience and your feel for what life is and come to some conclusions for yourself. What do you think?
So I thought. I let the thought come up from deep inside. I think there are no dull people. There are simply people whose courage we don't know. They get by on what faith and courage and love they can muster.
And what do you think the gods think of such people?
It's a mystery what the gods think, but I think the gods should think very highly of such people. In fact, I think the gods should be humbled by such people.
Now, wait a minute. Who asked your opinion on what the gods should think?
You did. But I would be willing to accept the gods if the gods would grant such people a sense of peace and grace in their lives.
It seems a reasonable and humble request. If this is a formal petitionary request, I will pass it up the ladder and use all my influence to see it gets the attention of the highest levels of the divine.
Don't strain yourself. Then I let go of what I thought I had to do, and I said, Coyote, would you be my guest on a drive up the mountain and a hike along the forest trail?
As long as I don't have to be on a leash.
Coyote, they can't see you.
I know, but it makes me feel so insignificant. I am important, aren't I?
The printer was happily chattering away, producing this sermon. We, the children of the earth, went off to enjoy its beauty and mystery, secure in our souls that it is right to be happy, if we could only figure out how. And if that seems dull and significant of nothing to some people, well, as Jesus said, they have their reward. The rest of us will try sneaking into heaven with the camels.
Hey,